The city has launched a plethora of housing programs in recent years to combat the housing crash. It formed a community development corporation and used part of a $1.3 million grant to renovate and sell 5 homes. It's also built community gardens and initiated, morale boosting events and programs like Rock the Block and the naming of the city neighborhoods. But despite those efforts, Cuyahoga County found that home values have declined 3.1% from 2012 through the end of 2014. So that being said, do you think that South Euclid's housing programs have paid off? Was the grant money wisely spent? And what more can you do to stabilize home values?
Thanks, Sarah. I think the programs have been working very successfully, but they're in their genesis stage. It's only been a couple of years, and these kind of programs take time to see their full benefit. Using the grant money from the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, we built many houses. Some have been restored, some have been built from scratch. I think the community is benefiting from that. There's some economic development with Cedar Center in Oakwood, and I think it's just a matter of a little bit more time before we start seeing the home values continue to rise. So I think the programs are working. We have a lot of strong neighborhood block grants and block groups who are very active in the community, and I think that's helping. And would like to thank the people who are volunteering their time as part of the Community Development Corporation, because that shows how much character and the quality of people we have in our community that are dedicating their time.
What was your reaction to the decline in housing values?
I guess I wasn't really surprised. It's an education for people to really look closely at it, because there's a lot of homes that went through foreclosure, and I think that hurt the market value when you see homes selling for $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000, but there are homes now selling for $200,000. So I'm comfortable we're headed in the right direction. I know on the streets of Holmden and Oakmont, where there were homes that were torn down, they've been totally rebuilt, and I think that's great for the community.
Okay, Mr. Russell, if you could also react to the decline in housing values, and do you think the grant money was spent wisely, and do you have any other ideas for boosting the housing stock?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I do think a lot of the programs that have been implemented in South Euclid have been successful. Having a one-time grant that the city was able to extend over multiple years is certainly a challenge. If we're able to rehab 5 homes, there are thousands of homes in South Euclid. So, there's studies that show that rehab home does improve the values of the houses around them. But if you're only doing 5 in a city of thousands, it's in a lot of ways a drop in the bucket. So if we could have dedicated funding, that would be great. But I think as a community in South Euclid, as we don't get direct CDBG funding to help support housing, I think we did a great job leveraging the funds that we did get. And my response to the property tax decline, I was somewhat surprised by it, actually. I'm actually a licensed real estate agent as well. And so sales prices in South Euclid have been up. That obviously was not reflected in our property tax values, but the sales prices have been up, so that's encouraging. And some of the things that are reflected in those sales prices are there's new home construction in South Euclid that's been going up in some of the homes that were demolished with some of those grant funding. So that's showing we took a nuisance property out of the neighborhood, and developers are encouraged to rebuild in those neighborhoods at a value that's much higher than the adjacent homes, which obviously supports the homes that are already there as well. So what do I think we could do more? I think we could help support homeowners in their homes. There's a lot of people who could use an extra couple bucks to help them paint their house, put a new roof on it. That helps everyone's property values. And then be a little bit more proactive with our code enforcement too, but that all takes more funds.
Okay, Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to say I think the jury's still out on the home values. I know that the Northeast Ohio Media Group reported some numbers, our administration reports some other numbers, and we're seeing we're seeing some bad housing. We're still recovering from the Great Recession and the foreclosure crisis that rocked the entire inner ring. And in South Euclid, we were rocked like the other inner ring. Really, the whole county was rocked by the foreclosure crisis, but the inner ring very much so, especially on the east side. And I think we're recovering from that in a really good way. I think that You know, we've got an excellent bond rating in South Euclid because we're doing things to, you know, we're being proactive about it. We are, you know, we're demolishing houses where they're a cancer to the neighborhood, where you know they've been in such decline. They've been empty for many years. We're doing something about foreclosures. When a family is in foreclosure, lawyers in South Euclid, including myself, through the Legal Aid Society, are helping them through mediation at the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. We're helping a lot of people, and I've personally helped a number of people survive foreclosure. And we have to do this one house at a time. We have the Purple Heart Homes program where through the nonprofit Purple Heart Homes, we are getting qualified veterans into some of these houses, and the only city that Purple Heart Homes is working in right now is South Euclid. We are doing neighborhood development. The Bluestone neighborhood is doing great. Cedar Center is doing great. And we're just seeing to it that these neighborhoods are doing well and that we have the safety forces out there, and we're bringing in neighborhood stabilization.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds.
I think as far as the evaluation from Cuyahoga County, I think that the jury's out on what their methodology was in setting those values. I think it was, there's one component that hasn't necessarily been identified, which was market value, how they established that. Overall, I would say I think some of the grant funds that the city has used, I think there's been a benefit. I'd like to see a larger component on homeownership education, again, also tying it with renters education. I think South Euclid does have a decent sized percentage of renters. And if we are allowed to at least educate those renters in how to be a good neighbor, how to maintain a home they're renting in, and also forming that partnership with the landlord as well as the tenant, I think we will increase some of our home values. One thing that I would say that as a homeowner, having value of your home declining affects you a number of ways. If you have a second mortgage and that equity line that you have, your bank may cut that back. You might not have as much availability. So all those things of reducing the value has a major impact on the community.
You have 10 more seconds.
10 more seconds?
Yeah.
I would just say that I
finish
think one thing that needs to be said, that if a homeowner was interested in changing that value, they have to do it. I don't see the city being in a position currently of requesting a reevaluation on a citywide